Monetizing a podcast. To be honest, when I first started this podcast, I thought it was gonna be so easy. I thought we were gonna just launch the podcast and then a bunch of people were gonna come and send us emails. Hey, I wanna promote my product on your podcast in an episode. And it turns out it wasn't like that, right? We've been doing this podcast for more than a year now, and we can finally say that we have been able to monetize it the right way. In the beginning, we had a strategy that was all about teaching, all about giving people a bunch of information that is useful, not crap. Okay, it's a lot of useful for you, all of you guys, for free, just listening to the podcast. But then we started getting, some guests that wanted to promote their businesses as an episode for the Evolve Marketing podcast. So then we started looking at it as another opportunity to actually do affiliate marketing through this podcast. So that's one of the first things that we have been doing to actually grow some type of income. So, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Evolve Marketing Podcast. And today we're going to talk about podcast monetization. And I'm here with
Hey,
Brian Brewer, as usual. How's it going, brother?
it's going great, man. I mean, we're experts now. I say that jokingly, but I mean, I guess technically this will be our first profitable month with the podcast. So, that's pretty impressive. Not a whole lot of money. Don't get me wrong here. We're not going to be syndicated on all the news channels anytime soon, and we're not going to get bought out by Spotify anytime soon. But yeah, you're absolutely right. When we started this podcast, we didn't really know what we are doing and we didn't really know how we were going to monetize it. Obviously, monetization was not our number one concern. We wanted to build something over time, give value, grow an audience. But since we're putting in the work, we may as well monetize it as well. And you're absolutely right. We have turned to what we know, I guess. We've used affiliate marketing to start monetizing the podcast. And I think that's a really interesting way to do it because we don't have to have mid-roll ads and we don't have to take 20 minutes out of the episode or 5 minutes out of the episode to say this episode is sponsored by, Four Sigmatic. It's the mushroom drink that can make you amazing or whatever like that. So we just kind of weave it in there. And for those who have a podcast and are a little bit concerned about affiliate marketing and bringing people on to talk about their products, what we're really doing is we're bringing on experts who happen to have products. We're extracting as much information out as we can in an hour and then mentioning their product to learn more with our affiliate link. And that, so far it's kind of working, huh?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Now we're getting people telling us, hey, we have this product, right? And then I wanna talk about it in as an episode on your podcast. We see the value that you guys do, the way you guys interview people, the way you guys extract information from a guest, which is really important. And yeah, they happen to have a product that they're selling, right? So then they do have an affiliate program for that product. So now we're using that as a way to help everybody, right? It's not like we're promoting shit, like we're very strategic to what we are gonna be promoting in the future. But yeah, I mean, the last episode was back to the basics, right? So back to the basics is for the most part affiliate marketing for me, So why not just do affiliate marketing in this as an episode, in the podcast, right? When we're promoting it. So I really like this business model, to be honest. It's so simple.
It is so simple. It's so much fun. Plus, we get to meet these experts because anybody who has a product created is going to be an expert at something. We get the opportunity to learn so much. We talk about one of the past experts who had a product. It was the Amazon influencer program, and I knew nothing about it. They came on. I got to talk to them. I learned a little bit about how to get approved, what landmines you should watch out for, and I did it. And you know what? I've made some money just by reviewing Amazon products. So it's just another stream of revenue that I honestly don't really think about. But anytime I have a product from Amazon, have a minute or two, do a quick review, post it, and let Amazon take care of the rest. So it's kind of a win-win. Plus, like you said, we're monetizing with the affiliate links to their paid program, and it's a good exchange in value. We extract as much as we can out of them. And in turn, there's a win-win agreement at the end where there's a mention of the product. They make money, we make money, they get customers, we make commissions. It's a really a great deal. But there's also another benefit to it that I think anybody who has a podcast might be interested in. Obviously, there's the revenue generating activity of affiliate marketing, which is great. But The other thing it does is it helps with our growth because when we bring on experts who happen to have a product, guess what? There's going to be people that are not inside our podcast audience who are going to be searching for information about that product. Well, they may find our podcast on YouTube, for example, and then dive in to get the information about the product directly from the product creator in a unfiltered interview. Well, that helps them make a decision, but it also helps us get new exposure. They might be coming here to learn about Amazon influencer marketing and then be like, hey, those two guys aren't too bad. I'd listen to them again, and we're going to help grow our podcast. So it's really a win-win-win, you know. And so for anyone who's thinking about starting a podcast, something to consider, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and the perfect example is when we interview the creators of Roadmap to Riches, right? That episode is still getting views till this date, and that was well, like 6 months ago, maybe. I'm not really sure. Remember which episode it was, but that episode is literally still getting views on YouTube because people are looking for master resale rights, and then they find that Roadmap to Riches, and then they just launched the 2.0, I believe. So now everybody's just wanting to know if it's legit, for example. And what's better
Yeah.
to
And the
find out
best way to
information
discover
is
that is to,
through the source, right? The source is going back to the source, the creators, and that's how we clickbaited it, which is true, that we talked to actually the creators of all of that.
yeah, absolutely. And what's really cool about that program, which also helps grow our podcast, is I have that as kind of a side business. I'm actually in that and selling it. But one of the bonuses that I offer is I created a funnel. Well, I took that podcast video, I think it was episode number 48, and I embedded it on the funnel that I give away. So if we go back to the basics, we talk about SEO. What's going to happen here? Well, anyone who imports that funnel and uses it on their custom domain, now we're going to have a backlink automatically built to that YouTube video from their website when they launch it. Right. So
Yeah,
now that's going to help the SEO of the video, and which will then in turn help the growth of the YouTube channel for the podcast. The other cool thing that I'm doing is I'm allowing them to rebrand my bonuses as their bonuses. So if someone comes in and buys, they launch the funnel, they can then give away that funnel as well, which will then help exponentially grow the number of people who have a website with our YouTube video embedded on it, which means more backlinks back to that YouTube video, which in
exactly.
turn helps the SEO of that video, which gets organic reach, which brings new people in automatically, which grows the podcast, which helps future episodes. Woo!
More
That's a
exposure
lot.
for sure. Super way more exposure. We should finish the podcast like that, but no, it's just been 10 minutes since we started talking. But yeah, another example is when we had Jonathan Montoya promote his software on the podcast, right? It was literally an hour-long podcast talking about his brand new software. And we just talked about it and asked questions about it for a whole hour. So now I believe that episode is embedded on his website as well when he promotes his own software. So now, just how you say, it's just the domino effect, right? And now we're getting traction from other people. We're making commissions from that episode, right? Because we have the link there as well. So it's just that's just another example that it actually works. Just giving opportunities to product creators to come in the podcast, promote what they have to promote, and then at the same time, we also make a commission out of it.
Yeah, 100%. And there's a huge benefit for the product creator as well, because as a product creator, we generally have a traffic flow. It's content or ads into a funnel to follow up, maybe trainings or emails and whatnot. But what I've found over the years is those interviews, those raw interviews, really help conversions. And I discovered this when I was promoting Legendary Marketer heavily. I had my sequences and my funnel was optimized and I was converting at a very high level. But what I discovered is when I went on the Wake Up Legendary show, which is their
Mhm.
morning show where they host people who are doing well with the program. I asked permission first, of course, but I took that video from YouTube and embedded it in my funnel, so to speak. So on day 14 or 15 or whatever of my automated sequence, I sent them over to an interview where Dave Sharp, the CEO of Legendary Marketer, was interviewing me. And what I found is that video, because it was a raw interview, it was just two guys, two marketers having a conversation. It actually converted very well for people who were hesitant to get into their initial $7 business builder challenge. Of course, I had an affiliate link underneath the interview to make it nice and easy for them. But the bottom line is it was a different perspective because when marketers, or excuse me, when potential customers are looking at a marketer, they're thinking, is this guy legit? Is he a real person or is she a real person? Is he just looking to get my money and disappear? When when prospects see an interview like that, it just really builds the human connection and it really helps increase conversions. So people like Jonathan Montoya, they can take advantage of the interview with us because they can then add that to their follow-up sequence and it really helps his conversions as well while helping our podcast grow.
Exactly. Where did you learn the strategy about making like a landing page and then embedding a YouTube video and then putting an actual clickable button right there without a description, with nothing, just straight to the point. Watch the video, click the button, buy.
Yeah, I mean it was something I started quite a few years ago with my follow-up, right? I've
Hmm.
all, since 2016 I've been content to funnels to education to offer, right? That's pretty much been my strategy. And because of the way I give away my education for free, I generate a lot of leads. So it's advantageous to me to, of course, focus on bringing in new traffic, but also increasing conversions. It's really advantageous to any marketer. Really not forsake the content. You still need the lead flow, but really focus on the conversions because it's so much easier to double your conversions than it is to double your traffic, right? So that email list is your hottest traffic. So what I would do is I would create as many possible follow-up trainings as I could think of. A lot of these trainings were reteaching the same things I've already taught, but in a new way. And
Hmm.
sometimes that's all people need to see is just a different perspective, a different angle. Or I would teach trainings that were specifically designed to overcome objections. For example, if someone came into my program now where I'm teaching affiliate marketing, they might go through the whole free course and they might think, this sounds great, but I'm not tech savvy, so I can't build a funnel, so it won't work for me. So on day 15 or whatever of my email follow up sequence, I might send out an email that says, not tech savvy, no problem, watch this video. And that's where I'd send them over to a training where it was just click by click, step by step, how easy it is to set up a funnel and be like, if now if you feel like you can do this, you might want to consider buying into my inner circle or premium program or whatever. There's a button
Yeah.
right below this video that will help you do that. So that worked great. It really helped conversions because it helped people build confidence. So I've been doing that for years. But yeah, then in 2020 or 2021, when I was on the Wake Up Legendary show, I thought, well, what if this interview would help people feel more at ease about buying into Legendary Marketer? So I just tested it and used the same formula. Here's a video and here's a button. Nice and simple, not a bunch of text to get distracting or even look salesy. It's just, hey, here's a video. If you like what you see and you want to take action, there's a button below. And sometimes less is more. It's like they get done watching the video, they're feeling good because they just got all this good value. It's not here, read this and make a decision. It's either, hey, click the button or don't, right? We're
Yeah.
limiting the number of decisions, we're limiting the number of distractions. And I think that's, when I found out how well that converted, that's why I was like, yep, the formula
Yep.
continues to work even in this application.
And it's simplicity, right? Simplicity sells. Super simple. So super simple stuff will get you longer, basically longer results, and you go further as well. So another way of monetizing a podcast, right? Is from YouTube, right? We just got monetized by YouTube as well because our episodes are on YouTube. It took a while, right? But I mean, it's never that fast with YouTube. I had another channel before that it took me almost a year to monetize it, right? And I was posting consistently as well. So that's another way to actually monetizing this podcast, which I actually really like because it's just passive, right? We're just doing everything that we're doing. We're posting the clip on YouTube, and then from there you turn monetization on, and then see the money come in.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's great to use a combination of the strategies, right? Because we have the affiliate marketing model now, where obviously we're not using that on every single episode. I don't
Hmm.
necessarily think there's going to be an affiliate link in this episode because it's just two guys talking here. But that's something that's more controllable and that's a lot faster. For example, if we have an affiliate program and it pays a $300 commission and just two people buy. Well, guess what? That's $600 in commissions right there from one episode that covers our monthly expenses or what have you. So that's controllable. That's faster. The YouTube, like you said, that takes a while,
Mm-hmm.
but that is, where in maybe year three, it could be ridiculous. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? That's when you can get into a situation where, holy crap, every episode we post now makes 1,000 or 2,000 or $3,000 in ad revenue. But that's not going to happen in the first couple of years. It might happen in year three or four. So it's good to have both, the short term and the long term, because eventually, if we keep doing this and continue long enough, eventually, I would assume that YouTube will be one of our biggest revenue streams, or at least
yeah,
it has the potential to be if this thing takes off.
definitely. I mean, you have to grow it, right? We just got to a thousand subscribers on YouTube, which is amazing. Honestly, I never thought we were gonna get that far. But yeah, we just have to grow it and stay consistent. I mean, we haven't missed an episode for over a year, right? And I don't see us missing one, to be honest. We're just gonna keep it going, keep it going. Um, we have gotten actually people trying to promote, not promote the podcast, but sponsors. I remember we got one maybe like last year. I don't remember when it was, beginning of the year last year, I believe it was. And we were like, no, we're not ready for that. Because we don't want to have that exposure, not exposure, I guess you can say. We didn't want to have like to rely on a sponsor, you get me, or change the dynamic of the episodes of what we have built so far. Because so far we're doing pretty good. When we started this, our main goal wasn't to make money, right? Our main goal wasn't to basically have another source of income. No, what we just started is just to start it, and then eventually, yeah, it's gonna pay us, right? But we didn't need that money when we first started this, right? It wasn't like, oh, we need to make more money, right? We already had our business going, our business was set up. So now this was just gonna be like something to share with the audience. So yeah, that's what I really like the trajectory that we're taking this podcast on, and we're getting repeat listeners every single month. Every single episode, people come back and watch us.
Yeah, I mean, this morning I got an email from a listener who says, I listen on my way to work and excited about the new episode. So it's great. And, you talked about trajectory, and that's really what you have to remember is in the beginning is the slowest part. I remember we were kind of excited about getting monetized, not because it was going to be a huge influx of cash. I think we've made like $18 in ad revenue so far from YouTube. But it was more of a milestone for us. I
Yeah,
think it was like a sign that, hey, we're making progress. And that's really, what you have to consider when you start anything like this. But the reason I bring that up is because I remember when we were getting close to being monetized, we had to fill two requirements. We had to get 4,000 hours of watch time on YouTube, and we had to have 1,000 subscribers. Well, we happened, probably in part thanks to the long form content, we had our 4,000 hours of watch time before we hit 1,000 subscribers. But I remember sitting once we got above 900, it seems like we were above 900, but below 1,000 forever. Did it seem like
yeah.
a long time?
It
Yeah.
it
And
was a
maybe it was
long
because we were
time.
excited. Maybe it was because we were excited. We were checking it, regularly or whatever, but it just seemed like it took, I don't know, a month and a half, maybe 2 months to go from
Yeah,
900 to 1,000. So we're just like, oh, this isn't great. But I noticed since we got to 1,000, we've been, I think we got to 1,000 the day after Christmas, right?
I believe so. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we got to 1,000 on December 26th. Today we're filming this on January 12th. So what is that? That's about 17 days. 17 days later, I know we've already added another 60 or so subscribers since then. So you can see
Actually,
the trajectory is picking up, and that's what happens. That's the exciting part about this is it took forever, 60 something or 59 episodes to get to 1,000, but by episode 75 we might be at 2,000, and then by at episode 80 we might be at 3,000, and by episode 100 we might be at 10,000. It just, that's the way YouTube channels go. I've monetized, this is my fourth YouTube channel that I've monetized now, and that's always the way it goes. The first 1,000 takes the longest.
takes the longest. And what blows my mind is that we already had the watch time hours. We were at 4,200, I believe, for the watch time hours, and we're still on not getting the 1,000 subscribers. But I was more worried. I always been more worried about the watch time hours. Like, I thought 4,000 hours was way too much for a whole year.
Well, to be quite honest with you, that's what I've always seen with the shorter content platforms, where my other YouTube channels are generally 5 to 15 minute videos. I would always hit 1,000 subscribers before I hit 4,000 hours of watch time. I think the
Exactly.
long form is what flipped that on its ear, so to speak.
And something that you have to realize also is 4,000 hours of watch time in a single year. So we had already passed our year. So I will see my watch time go down and then go up, go down and then go up, go down and go up because it was for the year, right? So we posted episodes last year at the same time. So then those episodes don't count anymore for the watch time. So it was like going up and down. But yeah, I was worried about it. But at the end, we ended up beating it by so much, so many hours, over 200 hours. And I mean, yeah, just how you say, it's a milestone. I was super excited because we're monetized, but it wasn't like, oh yeah, there's more money coming in, right? It's just like, no, we just hit that milestone that we've been working so hard to hit. And then from here it's just gonna grow, as you say, right? Just how you said, it could be next month where we have another 1,000 followers, and then keep following and repeating that.
And I think that's why so many people fail to really get that momentum is because the hardest part is the beginning. So we already talked about how growth is going to be slow in the beginning, but guess what? In the beginning, you also have no idea what the heck you're doing. So every episode was difficult. In the beginning, we started, I mean, figuring everything out for ourselves. Then, you'd create short form content, and I'd edit the long form content just because, not that we couldn't afford to hire an editor, but we just wanted to figure it out, right? To understand it. So in the beginning, we were just, working and putting in all this extra time for no money and no growth. And now that we're actually seeing the growth trajectory pick up, it's also a lot easier. We get on, we talk for an hour, we either talk amongst ourselves or we have an interview scheduled like we do for next episode,
Hmm.
and it takes an hour. Then we upload everything, we send it to our editor, and she handles the long form video and she handles all the short form content. And it's easy, I guess is the best way to say it. So the beginning is going to be the toughest,
Yep.
but the hard work is done before the results come. That's just kind of the way everything goes.
And I remember when we first started, I think it was like our second month, maybe 8 episodes in. And then you were like, this is the point where people give up right here. Like this is the point where people just stop doing it because they don't see that instant gratification, right? Those instant results. Our views started high and then they went down a little bit, right? And then that you told me exactly, this drop is where people stop making content. That this is the
Yeah,
point where people give up.
Yeah, because everyone who's going to start a podcast probably has some sort of built-in audience. It might not be huge. It might be a couple thousand people. It might be a following on TikTok. It might be a small email list. But if you're going to start a podcast, you probably already have some sort of following. So what happens in the beginning? You announce this thing that you're super excited about because it's brand new to your list, who is excited to see something new from you. So yeah, your views go up in the beginning and then they drop because people are like, oh, just another episode.
Yeah.
And you're exactly right. I think it was about episode 8. And we'd spent all this time. We weren't making any money. We'd spent all this time with editing and figuring everything out, and our views were going down on a weekly basis. And that's exactly what I said. This is where people give up, Andre, and it's true. I bet you if you went on whatever podcast platform you listen to and just started searching some of the podcasts, I bet you you're going to find a lot of podcasts that have like 6 to 10 episodes, and they haven't posted since 2022.
Yeah, yeah. It's just people they just give up, right? And but yeah, it was hard. In the beginning, it was hard, like trying to like edit everything, setting out the structure. And now it's so much easier, right? Now that we're more experienced, like you said, we meet up once a week. We talk for an hour. We have guests. We interview the guests for an hour, and that's basically it. We don't really have to do much. Before it was more stress because we spent a lot of hours like posting everything, but now we outsource that. So now we're just focusing in the things that really matter, which is the conversations, bringing in guests, the speakers, and just teaching. I mean, we're not losing that essence of giving free value. Yeah, we're monetizing on the back end, but we're still giving free value to people, right? When we promote or when we have a guest promoting their product on the podcast, we're trying to drill that person. We're trying to have them give us so much information that in reality you maybe you don't have to buy the product, but we're over there just learning and asking the guests, everything about what they are promoting. And I think that's the benefit that everybody has, this audience, because they can get so much value out of the guests, value out of us, because we're doing affiliate marketing for a long time now. And then, of course, if they want to move forward, they can always purchase what we're promoting in the description, in the link below.
Yeah, it's an exchange of value. You know what I mean? We get a bunch of value out of them and we learn stuff. And then if they get to promote their product, and then anyone who's is considering buying or not, it's a great way to get information. It's a great way to do the due diligence. So let's kind of shift back towards the initial topic and talk about monetizing a podcast. And let's kind of put this into perspective of someone who is maybe looking to also grow. Like they want to start a real business around a podcast. And let's say you're in a completely different niche. You're not in the make money niche. Let's say you're in the health and fitness space. You just really love talking about healthy products and lifestyle and workouts and whatever it is that those folks talk about. You can still implement affiliate marketing into your podcast. You just have to find the product creators who are relevant to your space. Most of them will have an affiliate program. And if they don't, they'll definitely work out some sort of revenue share agreement where they create a secondary checkout page for you and track every sale that comes through that particular checkout page. That's pretty common practice. So even if they don't have a proper affiliate program, they can still track sales generated by your podcast. That's a great way to start generating revenue, but also that's going to help your growth, because this is what I really wanted to talk about. Anytime someone launches a new product, doesn't matter what space they're in, what do they want? They want views, they want eyeballs, and they want to build up the buzz. So if you're a podcast that's just getting started, if you can find a creator that's launching a new product in your space or your niche, guess what's going to happen? There's going to be a bunch of buzz around that product. So people are going to be searching it. It's a great way for you as a new podcast to get discovered, because I promise you, just like us, in the beginning, no one was searching the Evolved Marketing Podcast. Nobody cared. Nobody had ever heard of it. But people are searching for what they're interested in. So, for example, when we have Dave Sharp on, anyone who's learning about Legendary Marketer, they might go out there and search Legendary Marketer, and that gives our podcast an opportunity for discovery. I just wanted to
Yeah.
highlight that again, because with creativity and with a little bit of action to self start, you can benefit from this idea of affiliate marketing monetization in so many ways.
Exactly, exactly. It's the simplest way, right? Just find a creator that has a product and reach out to them. It's a simple DM message that you can send them. And of course, they also want more exposure with their product. So most of the times they're gonna say yes, interview me, and then we'll talk about the product, and then you can promote it in your audience. And then what you're doing is you're grabbing their audience as well, because that person is probably going to promote that episode to his own audience, which will give you more exposure to your podcast, and then you get more exposure for more people to come on your podcast as well. Another way for monetizing also is creating your own product, right? We haven't done that yet for the podcast, but we talked to Chappell. And
Mm-hmm.
then he said like that in the beginning, it was hard. He wasn't getting sponsors. He wasn't doing affiliate marketing, I believe. But then he did create like a master class or like a mastermind class, right? And that was his main source of income through the podcast. So he was selling his services on the podcast. And I think that's another route that people can do to monetize their podcast as well.
Yeah, because let's be honest, if someone's going to spend an hour with you, and that's, generally what podcasts are, they're kind of the last remaining long form content, right? Everything's gone to short form content now with TikToks and Reels and all
Mhm.
that stuff. But there's still people who want to invest time in experts or creators or authority figures, and they're craving that long form content. You kind of, this is a situation where you got to zig when everybody else is zagging, or vice versa. It's like everyone's gone to short form now, so we decided, hey, that was part of the reason I got talked into starting this whole thing with you. Is we talked to Travis at that event, and he's
Mhm.
like, yeah, it's the last remaining long form content platform. I was like, you're right. So we got to get in on that, right? We gotta make sure we give people what they want. And but the point I'm getting at is if anybody is willing to spend an hour with you, they're probably going to want more. So they're willing to invest whatever you feel comfortable charging. If it's $27 a month for a weekly call, that's probably the easiest way. I know as soon as we started this podcast, we went out and bought the domain podcast launch formula with the future plan of, hey, maybe someday we'll share our lessons that we've learned through launching a podcast and not sell it for $10,000. Just, create a little course that helps people start their podcast and, sell it for 200 bucks or whatever as a way to monetize. So you're absolutely right. There's no reason you shouldn't start your own program because if you're doing long form content, there's people who are going to want more. And the easiest way to do that is to create a mastermind. School is a big one now, where you
Uh,
create a community.
the community, right? It's like Facebook groups, but outside Meta, right?
Exactly, right. It gives you an opportunity. Facebook groups are, I don't want to say they're dying, but they're just not really a great way to build a community because the way the algorithms work. So people are moving off Facebook to grow their community. And that's really what people want, right?
Yeah, I mean, especially for the community people. Well, the way the Facebook, first of all, let's back up a little bit. The way Facebook groups work, you're dependent on Mark, basically, right? So if you say something that you're not supposed to say, then Mark will give you a warning, right? And then if the algorithm, the way it works, just how you said it, you can post something and nobody can see it. If it doesn't get interactions, nobody will see it. It will just go to the bottom of the list, right? So the only cool thing that I like about it is that you can trick it, where you can just send a comment randomly, weeks later, and then the post will pop up in the front because it's the last one that got the interaction, which that's the only cool thing about it. But yeah, school. Let's just talk about school, right? I haven't really played with it. Do you have any experience with it?
No, but the reason it popped into my head is because I created my account this morning for the first time because I wanted to develop a free community that supplements my free course, right? And give people an opportunity to get more information so they become more educated. So they're more likely to invest in my, premium programs, inner circles, and advanced trainings. And so I jumped into it. And honestly, I don't have much insight into it because after I created my account, for some reason I had trouble uploading my profile picture and then it was time to record the episode. So I didn't get too far into it. So I just want to be clear. But yeah, that's exactly what it looks like. It looks like an alternative to Facebook communities. And what I'm hoping is it's not so reliant on engagement in order for people to see what's going on, because I think that's the problem with Facebook groups is everybody started to realize like, hey, these posts aren't being seen if they're not clickbaity or engagement bait
Hmm.
filled. So the value was there. And the other thing is when a lot of times when members of the community on Facebook ask questions, they don't really show up unless a lot of people start engaging with them. So it just really degrades the value of the group. So yeah, I think school is a good alternative. I think it might be free to start. I know you can either create free communities or paid communities, and I'm sure the cost is minimal regardless. But that gets back to the monetization. If you created a free community that was $10 a month, over time, that could be a pretty consistent monthly recurring revenue for you.
Definitely. I mean, building a community, or actually building a community is easy, but managing the community, that's what gets hard. When I built my community for the Spanish community, it got to the point where I was like, I need help. I can't just be the only admin. I can't just be the only moderator in the whole community and just be aware of everything that's going on right there, right? So then I reached out to other people that I know, and then they're over there helping me right now, right? So that's the start of a new journey, I guess you can say, for them and myself. But yeah, managing the community is so difficult, man. Like there's just so many things, somebody says something negative, and then you have to watch out for those people in the future. So it's like it's weird. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, you have to understand what you're getting yourself into, right? If you don't have the time to manage a community, don't start a community. But that's really what it comes down to is anything that you create, you have to manage it, you have to control it. And you just like it, we're both in the restaurant industry background. And you were a manager, I was a manager, and you know, if things start going south as a manager of a restaurant, the servers can revolt against you pretty quickly. At least from my experience, if
Oh
you're
yeah.
if you're not controlling the situation, you get 10 servers on and they're all pissed about something, you're in trouble, right? You're the mob rule, so to speak. So you really have to actively control it, and you have to have some foresight, and you have to solve problems before they really start rearing their ugly head. So it's
Yeah,
it's business, no doubt about
you
it.
start getting the huffing and puffing. You start getting the eye rolls. So all of that, like I experienced as well. Like it's like as a manager, especially in the restaurant business, like you have to make everybody feel happy. You have to make sure everybody's good, or else nobody's gonna have a good time.
It only takes one, man. And we could probably have a whole week long, or we could have a whole episode, weeks worth of content talking about our experiences in that industry. But that's the other thing too, is this whole digital marketing game, starting a business, it's not completely unique. If you're just getting started, but you've had a job or you've been in the office space, a lot of the same politics and procedures all align with the same thing, or align with that, right? It's just a people business, right? That's really what it all comes down to.
That's all it is. That's all it is. But also, you can't please everybody. You get me? There's times where I'm like, I'm too nice. Like I have to hold back sometimes of to say really what I want to say. You get me? Especially in the community, at least when somebody says I'm lost, like instead of asking like a really actionable question, they say I'm lost, I don't know what to do. But I'm like, you haven't asked any questions. You get me? Like, where are you lost? Like which part don't you understand so we can help you better? That's one of the things that really like, it gets to me because I'm like, okay, well, I can't help you if you say you're lost. Everything is there how you're supposed to learn, but ask me questions about it, like certain topics, specific topics that you're lost, and I can help you and guide you. But that's just one of the questions that I get all the time.
Yeah, and that's a great tip for any beginner who's trying to reach out to an expert, is just ask the question you want the answer to.
Yep.
One of the things I hate is when people say, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" And then I got to respond to that email. It's like, just ask the question. You know what I mean? Or you get those emails, "Can you help me?" I so you're
Where?
going to make me spend my time to say yes when you could have just asked the simple question and I could have just given you the simple answer. So, that's the thing. Like, I'm not trying to put you or myself on a pedestal, but we're running businesses here. And anyone you're trying to reach out who has authority, has a product, has experience, they're running businesses too. So I promise you, they're willing to help you. They are. People love sharing their knowledge and experience. It's just the way we are. Like, if I can help someone, it makes me feel great. But get directly to it. Just ask the question you want the answer to. Worst case scenario, I ignore it. I generally don't, but that's really the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
So yeah, I oftentimes, if anyone reaches out to me either in a community or in an email, says, "Can you help me?" And that's not going to be at the top of my priority list.
I know, just get straight to the point, right? Straight to the point, ask the question, and then you'll get the answer. The answer is there. You might be a little confused, but the answer is there. We got you, but just ask the question. You can't just be like,
And what it really shows, people who do that, and I'm not trying to dog on anybody or make anybody feel bad, but what it really shows is they haven't taken any action on their own.
right.
Because if you start doing research, even on YouTube, you're going to start learning and you're going to find holes, right? Like, that's the benefit of buying into a program or a mentor versus just learning on YouTube. There's going to be holes, but learn until you get to a hole. And then when you have a hole, when you know what you don't know, that's when you reach out. Hey, I've
Exactly.
been, I've been researching funnels, but um, I don't understand domain name. Can you provide me a link to a tutorial or a training or give me some insight? And then yeah, okay, cool. Now I look at that person, and that answer might take me longer, but I look at that person like, okay, cool. They're a self-starter. They're doing their research. They found a hole. I'm more than happy to fill that gap for them.
Exactly. Like they're like how you say, they're putting in the work, They're actually applying what they're learning. And because everybody will get stuck. I got stuck many times, right? But I didn't have a mentor to text him or send him a message. Hey, I'm stuck right here. Can you help me? I didn't have that. But I knew what I needed to find the solution, right? I had a problem, but I went and searched for the solution. That's different. People, that skill of searching for the solution, the problem solving area, people don't do that. People don't do that. They don't go out there and look for the answers themselves first. They're just so easy to just, okay, how do I do this? Like, how can you help me right now? How to fix it? I'm like, okay, well, did you already try to look for the answer and then you couldn't find the answer? Then you can come to me, But like, they just forget the problem solving part of creating something new or learning something new.
Yeah, and I think this brings up a good tip for anyone who wants to monetize their podcast with the community is it's easy to launch a community and see what happens, but it's going to be beneficial to you in the beginning to provide them, doesn't matter what your expertise is in, to provide the people who join your community with some sort of groundwork or beginner training because you want to get them up to speed before they start asking you questions because then it's going to be a lot easier and that will increase the overall value of your community as well. Because what happens is if you're an expert and you're bringing people into a community and you're teaching a common theme or tactic or strategy or lifestyle or whatever, what you're going to find is a majority of those community members are all going to have the same five, six, or seven questions.
Exactly.
So if you can get everybody up to the same point with, I don't want to call it stagnant because that's a little bit negative, but basically a video or something that just lives in your community, then what you're going to see is you're going to see a bunch of questions come in. Some of them are going to be the same. So you can answer them in detail in your community. And what's going to happen? First, the person who asked the question is going to feel great because you took so much time to answer that question. Maybe you shot a Loom video for them. Maybe you created a tutorial. Maybe you detailed a seven, point plan or whatever. They're going to feel great and they're going to be a ride or die. They're going to be a fan for life at that point. But also now it's recorded and redistributed. Anybody who goes through that initial onboarding or training, if you will, there's a good chance they're going to have that same question. They're going to be able to refer to it the way you already answered it. They're going to feel great about your community, and that's going to
Mm-hmm.
help you out in the long run.
Exactly, exactly. It's just that you gotta be more strategic about it. But anyways, back to monetizing the podcast, right? I mean, what other ways can we monetize the podcast? I mean, we're already affiliate marketing. We're monetizing by YouTube. We talked about, the domain name that you already bought for like how to start a podcast. And yeah, we can sell it for $97 a month, like we don't need to sell it for like a high ticket offer. It's just there won't be any coaching because we are, like you say, we run businesses on the back end. So we really don't have that time to like run coaching for podcasts. But a $97 a month product can easily be sold for anybody listening and be like, okay, maybe I want to start my own podcast, right? But what other ways can we monetize this podcast? Aside from sponsors, I guess you can say, because sponsorship, I'm still kind of, it's like a gray area still for us.
Yeah, one thing that I found, well, let's talk about sponsorship really quickly. At least my view on it is hey, we're still growing the podcast. I mean, obviously we'll always continue to strive for growth, but to make $200 for a sponsorship isn't worth it to me,
Hmm.
right? To make $5,000 for a sponsorship for one episode, well, that's another story. So in the future, that might be something that I'm willing to look at, but I want it to be worth it. And where does that come from? Where does that increased offer come from? That comes from our viewership, right? How do you grow your viewership? Strive to provide value and consistency as well. People have to know what to expect when they're coming to our podcast. But beyond that, one thing that I'm not sure I want to do, but one thing that I found was pretty common in practice is charging guests to come on your podcast. I think Travis was talking to us a little bit about that. What are your thoughts on charging people to come onto your podcast? Apparently, it's more common in the industry than I knew.
It's super common. I actually reached, no, somebody reached out to me, a big business marketing podcast, and they're like, "Hey, we have seen your content. We like it. Would you be okay to come in an in-person podcast in Las Vegas?" And I was like, yeah, I mean, hell yeah, like I wanna do that, right? So then they made me to sign an application and then fill out the form. And then at the end of the form, the last question was like, oh yeah, this is $6,000 to come on the podcast. You get me? So it is common, people do charge guests to be on the podcast. Another one is entrepreneurs on fire. Remember we talked about that person at Funnel Hacking Life where he had to pay, I believe it was $2,000 to come on his podcast, and it was just very really good structure. And then at the end of the podcast, he just logged out. Right? He didn't say bye to the guests or nothing. But yeah, it's super common. But I'm not sure at what point you can do that. You get me? I mean, we can do it right now if you want to, right? If people want to get exposure. But just how you say, we're in the growing the podcast still section, right? We're still growing this podcast. Eventually, when we have, I don't know, more than 1,000 views per episode or 10,000 views per episode, then people are gonna be more interested on jumping in so they can get more exposure for their brand.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're probably a little premature to start charging people. I don't know if that's something we're going to do anyways, but yeah, I think you're absolutely right. That's a future uh potential revenue stream, I guess. And it would be one of those things where I'm sure if we have the reach or the viewership that many product creators or experts would be happy to pay because let's be honest, it's still going to be cheaper than paying for ads. And that's really what it all comes down to is selling attention, I guess, right?
Exactly. And right now, what we're doing is we're doing the affiliate marketing side of it right now for the podcast. But all the results that we're getting because we are generating money, like we said, this is like the first profitable month for the podcast. We can use all those results, right? And then pitch it to other brands, pitch it to other people to come on the podcast. Hey, we launched this episode and we made blah 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 type of money, right? So it's like it's getting sales. That's the most important thing, it's getting sales. And then from there, people are gonna be more interested to come on the podcast because their audience convert, and that's really important to actually keep thinking about as well.
Yeah, and that's where the value comes, and that's why it's so important to stay true to who you are and work and focus on the core audience because that's where the value comes in is when the audience converts. It was like when we were at Funnel Hacking Live and Perry Belcher was talking about his email newsletters and how much an email newsletter can sell for. Well, what happens? Let's say you build an email newsletter, which is exactly the same thing as a podcast for the most part. If a brand comes on and says, "Hey, we'll pay you $10,000, for example, for a series of 3 emails to promote our product," and if it converts at a high rate for them, they'll just turn around and buy the email list from you for a lot of money.
Hmm.
And not that we're going to sell the podcast, but that's the same kind of ideas. If we can show case studies from results that have come because of this, right? Hey, this person came on and made $2,000 in sales. Well, then the other product creators will be like, yeah, that sounds great. I'll come on, spend an hour of my time, get more exposure and make some sales. And that's what it comes down to is leveraging your past results, just like you can
Exactly.
leverage your past guests,
I
right?
was
If
just
we're
gonna say
looking
that
to
too.
reach out, yeah, if you're looking to reach out to guests who you think, I don't know if I can get them on my podcast, but that'd be a great interview because they're well known. If we reach out to someone who we're on the fence about whether or not we can get them on the podcast, what's the first thing we do? Hey, want to invite you on the podcast. We've interviewed past guests such as Dave Sharp, Lauren Tickner, and we just start, rattling off, and then Travis Chappell, and we start rattling off the names, Jonathan Montoya, Jacob Karras, people who are known, and that adds authority to our podcast. And they're like, oh yeah, those are some pretty good names. I'll come on there as well. And so you can always leverage the past guests and
Yeah.
even case studies if you have them to attract future attention and future guests.
And also the results, right, that we're getting as well. And that's super important. Well, I think that's it, right? What other ways do you think?
That's all I know. If I knew
Yeah.
more, I'd probably be using them. But that's a pretty good start. Once again, that just to summarize, affiliate products and your own products or community are a great way to start while you look for the long term from YouTube. I think is our main focus, right? Control it until it controls itself.
Exactly, exactly. Well, I think this was a great episode, and it's always nice to talk to you, Brian. We do it once a week. We should do it more often, but like I said, we're running business on the back end. But yeah, this is great. Thank you guys for listening on another episode of the Evolve Marketing Podcast.